3 ways LSU keeps its recruiting class together right now.
Locked On presents The Portal, the daily podcast covering college football recruiting and everything NIL. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
The Portal Podcast, where you get your daily recruiting, NIL, and transfer portal scoop. I'm your host, Brian Smith, longtime college football recruiting analyst. Thank you for making the Portal Podcast a part of your day each and every day right here on the Locked On Podcast Network. Today, we are brought to you by our friends at Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. If you need tickets, Gametime is the place for you. We're going to be getting to my personal picks for who I think, A, LSU has a chance to hire as their head coach, and B, who's really not on the list. We're going to talk about that a little bit later, but the duration of the show up until that point is really going to cover one primary thing. How does LSU keep its recruiting class together? And I give you 3 main points to do that. This, for those that are living in Louisiana or LSU fans, both, probably won't surprise anybody, but these are mine. Number 1, I think, is far and away the most important, because relationships are what make recruiting classes work or not. If Frank Wilson is not retained at LSU, good luck. I don't know if Frank is staying, if he's going, if he's retiring, if he wants to be there until he keels over. I'm not sure, but he is beloved around there. He has connections all over the Bayou State. He's currently on staff, and I can't imagine why he'd be let go. This is a guy that I think would do very well to keep the class together. There may not be a better assistant coach in college football than Coach Wilson at keeping recruits at a school in times of turmoil. LSU has had him employed multiple times, and he's always done well with it. With Brian Kelly's firing abruptly after the debacle against Texas A&M, it's safe to say that Frank Wilson, among other people, there are others that I'll get to in a second, must be retained. Coaches that he knows around the high school ranks, 7-on-7 coaches, trainers, obviously the parents and the guardians of recruits and the recruits themselves are all tied to him. If you take nothing else from this podcast, note the following: recruits pick coaches, not schools. And I know people don't want to hear that. I always say the same thing. That's just the way it is. It is not changing. If you do not have the right people on the sidelines representing insert a school, it's not going to work in recruiting. Frank Wilson at LSU makes that happen. And in connection to Coach Wilson, they need to have their back office staff not only stay, but do a good job. You have to embolden them. I don't care if you give them an incentive, whatever it is. But if they are not feeling the love from the administration, and I know LSU's going through a president change and all kinds of stuff, they got to figure that out. Because those people, much like Coach Wilson, are a pivotal part of LSU keeping their class together. They only have 16 players committed, most of which, and I'll go over them in a sec, are in-state players. But you don't think A&M, Texas, Oklahoma, Arkansas, every other school in the SEC has offered these kids. That's just part of it. Don't forget about Ohio State. Don't forget about Notre Dame, Southern Cal, Miami. All these schools around the country are going to make calls, even to some of the kids they may not have offered yet. Hey, we saw some of your senior film. We'll offer you if you have interest. LSU doesn't have a coach. You better have everybody in conjunction with Coach Wilson ready to fire off calls and recruit for the Tigers right now. This week is pivotal. It may not be stuff that you hear about publicly, and most likely you will not. But the visits that get set up to go other places for this next weekend, the visits for the weekends after that, will happen right now when LSU does not have a head coach. It is awkward, and there is no fix. It's the best scenario. So that's number 1, keeping people around. Coach Wilson, to me, is number 1. There are other guys on the staff, too. Don't get me wrong, but he's top of the board. Number 2 on the list. This probably isn't very friendly. It'll probably make a lot of LSU people cringe, but this is the world we live in. Yeah, I know you're about to pay a whole bunch of money, about $800K a month for however many years to Brian Kelly, plus other staff members, all kinds of stuff. Oh, and the next staff too. But you still got to spend even more money on NIL, and here's why. Some of these recruits that I just mentioned They're going to get offers from A&M. They're going to get offers from Miami. Schools that, quite honestly, have more NIL dollars than the Tigers do. Just true. But at the same time, if you don't, you're probably going to lose somebody. And you can restructure it. You can do different things. It's going to happen. Somebody's going to say, if I'm staying, I got to have more money. It's going to happen. Now, they may want them just to say, you know what, forget it. But especially with in-state kids, that's really touchy. I don't know how you handle that, but NIL is going to play into this. Guaranteed. Guaranteed. Whether or not I'm not going to name any names because people are going to think that I know something. I don't know which kid it'll be. There's going to be somebody that says, if we're locking in with you, especially in this time of turmoil, y'all are paying. That's coming. 100%. And that goes on at every school. That's just the era we're in. You have to live with it and accept it. Number 3, this one's a little bit different. And I don't know how this will play out because this is the conundrum that every school like LSU must go through. With Kelly out the door and National Signing Day, the very first Wednesday in December, you have a problem. Your recruiting class is backed up against that. Your last game is that weekend prior. They play at Oklahoma on the 29th. How is that going to go? You're not going to have your new coach more than likely. I guess you could hire James Franklin. That's one possibility. Or some coach that's from the NFL or something they got fired. Something of that nature. But otherwise, you're waiting on a coach. So how does that work? Kind of goes back to my points about Coach Wilson and some others. But overall, it's pretty awkward. But if you want to retain not just this class, you got to look long-term. The class of 27, the class of 28, 29. They've even got a quarterback already in the 27 class, Peyton Houston, out of Evangel Christian up in Shreveport. He's a stud. You want to keep those guys in the fold. Sooner is better. But at the same time, it's got to be the right guy. It is such a fine line. Whoever that head man is, he needs to come in and hit the ground running. Even if they can just tell somebody through back channels, hey, it's and fill in the blank. We can't announce it because of contractual reasons. This is who it's going to be. We're just working out the final details, crossing the T's and dotting the I's. That's helpful. Probably not a ton. I can just tell you from personal experience dealing with recruits and specifically their parents. Adults know best here. They want to see it announced on TV. No ifs, no ands, or buts, which again is impossible. So to that, I expect out of the 16 current commitments, 2 or 3 to probably end up elsewhere. That's just the way it is. I don't know which ones it'll be, but here's the general barometer. And again, this is not an LSU thing. This is across college football. It'll be more likely kids that are not from Louisiana. Those kids are more likely to be tied to the Bayou Bengals. That state has as much loyalty as about any in the country. So with that, here are a few of the kids in general, like people want to know about, like Lamar Brown. I'm sure A&M in Miami are going to call him. Why wouldn't they? Texas will call him. Why wouldn't they? He's the stud D-line/O-line from University Lab, which connected to LSU's campus. I think he'll stick with him, but is it 100% certain, especially with the way A&M just kicked LSU's butt in their stadium? Not likely that he wouldn't at least take the call, but we'll see. Trenton Henderson, he's right down the road, Pensacola for. It's not that far away. It's only about 4 hours, but he's a recruit that everybody in the country wanted anyway, and he's a pass rusher, out-of-state kid. Maybe he's one of those guys that you need to get back on campus. We'll see how that goes. Richard Anderson from Edna Carr, he's, in my opinion, the best defensive tackle in the country. I think he's a guy that will end up sticking with LSU. He's a fan. His second choice, ironically, he told me this spring, was Florida. Well, they fired their coach too. I like the chances of the Tigers keeping him. Bryson Martinez, the offensive lineman, I don't know him, but he's a kid that lives just south of Baton Rouge. You're probably okay. Havon Finney, this is where it gets interesting. National level recruit at corner, big long kid from Sierra Canyon in Chatsworth, California. That's going to be more difficult. You don't think USC is going to make a phone call, or probably already has? Of course they are. You don't think that other schools in California, out west, Arizona State, Utah, everybody else, hey, come take a visit? Oregon? Absolutely. That's one of the most likely, I would say. You could even put him at the top of the board because he's an LA kid. Might be the most likely flight risk. It will depend on with him which coach and coaches are retained and retained quickly. We'll get back to that in a minute. But Jabari Mack, Destrehan kid just outside of New Orleans, I imagine he'll stick with the Bayou Bengals. Aiden Hall, New Orleans kid, Edna Carr, great guy. Probably stick with LSU. An interesting one is Deuce Gerald's. He's got ties to Ole Miss. His dad played there, but his family's from Baton Rouge, but he lives just outside Atlanta. That's a really interesting one. Ohio State, Oregon, Ole Miss. There's some possibilities here. I don't know where he will go, but Deuce is committed as well. That's as good a interior D-line class as I've ever seen, by the way. Deuce is a very, very good pass rusher. Dylan Purter, he's a kid out of Booker T, Washington. He's only about 15 minutes from Auburn, Alabama. I'll be curious to see if the safety sticks with the Tigers, and much like any other kid, it'll depend partially on the assistant coach, which ones are and are not retained. No idea what's going to happen there, but that's a really good player. And just overall, any kid from out of state, DeAnthony Lafayette, he's from Lake Nona High School. It's on the south edge of Orlando. He's a pass rusher. Maybe he is, or maybe he isn't going to take visits, but he's an out-of-state kid. It's a little bit less likely. When we come back, I'm going to break down my coaching list, who I think LSU should look at. Guys that I think are already off the board, though, is what I'm going to start with that. Probably going to tick some people off, but LSU fans need to be realistic. That is next here on the Portal Podcast. Today's show is brought to you by our friends over at Gametime. College football is back, and we shouldn't even be any more blessed than we are, because this has been a fun college football season. I couldn't be more excited about it with the tailgates, the rivalries, all the energy in the stands. There's not quite like college football. But let's be real, getting tickets to your favorite college football game isn't always easy. Endless queues, hidden fees, jumping out at the checkout. I hate that. And it happens all the time. With Gametime, you don't have to worry about that. You can score last-minute tickets at the best prices with no changes at the checkout line. So if you pull up the Gametime app on your phone or your tablet, a few clicks, you can type in LSU or anything else that you want. Find the game, click on it, and you can even see your seat view right there from your phone or your tablet. It's really pretty easy. And to be honest, I'm not the most patient guy, but Gametime has always treated me well. Take the guesswork out of buying college football tickets with Gametime. Just create an account, use code LOCKEDONCollege, $20 off your first purchase. All you got to do is use promo code LOCKEDONCollege. Again, that's promo code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. Download the Gametime app today. Thank you once again for making the Portal Podcast a part of your day each and every day right here on the Locked On Podcast Network. Please like and subscribe. We're going to be doing live shows every day this week at noon Eastern time to discuss coaching changes, firings, assistant coaches getting promoted, recruits decommitting, transfer portal getting heavy, all of it right here on the Portal Podcast. So here's my list, and I'm going to start off with who's not coming, in my opinion, and I'll explain each one. Then I'll go through 5 head coaches I think they got a shot at, and 5 assistants they should at least look at. And in some ways, I mean, I know a lot of LSU fans expect just a home run hire, but that's not how this works. You have to do all of your due diligence. So Marcus Freeman, he's already turned LSU down as defense coordinator when Kelly came, ironically. I don't think he's going to come. He's a Midwest guy. You got to call him. And all these guys you should call, but I don't think it's going to happen. Lane Kiffin, his wife and him broke up. They divorced. She's back in the picture, and she's a Florida grad. Ironic? Yes. But what other job is open in the Southeastern Oh, that's right, Florida. I'll be shocked if he really looks at LSU, and I get it, you got to call him. 100%. I don't think he will end up being a major option. Just my opinion. Eli Drinkwitz. I heard that he wasn't all that interested in the Florida job, at least initially. If he's not there, I doubt he's trying to leave. He's just happy at Missouri. Maybe that's the case, maybe not. But I don't think he will be a very realistic option. Again, call it. You have nothing to lose. And then Rhett Lashley. I've said this on every pod that I've been on. He's a guy not enough people are talking about. Absolutely call him. Could you imagine what somebody with his passing game acumen would do with the receivers that LSU gets? Absolutely. But SMU has, ironically, as deeper, if not deeper pockets than LSU. Oil money. If I'm wrong, so be it. I think it would be really exciting if Lashley headed down to the Bayou, but I think he's going to stay. Florida should look at him when Florida State fires Norvell, and they will. They should look at, everybody should, but I think he's going to stay. Now, here's my list in descending order for who I think LSU should look at and why. Number 5, Matt Campbell. If you're going to consistently bring in coaches that are just good coaches and not worry about culture, Matt Campbell kind of fits the bill. Had the chance to cover him about 6 years ago. Really good guy. I was at a press conference that I got sent to. He's about as honest and humble as it gets, I think, for a guy that's from the Midwest. And for those that don't know, he's an Ohio guy. Briefly played at Pitt, then went to Mountain Union, coached there, and made his way up the ladder. He is an elite, personable guy. In other words, he can adjust. And Louisiana is the most unique state in the country in terms of personality, especially Southern Louisiana. Not a lot of people are going to fit in there. Matt would find a way to make it work. Can he recruit at an elite level would be my question. And before anybody asks, I have no idea. Iowa State is not in on the same kids that LSU is. They're not. But he can coach football, and his defensive staff with far, far fewer players with the same physical tools, they do a pretty good job considering. If you give him LSU's talent and they were able to bring that staff with them, not only would the recruits in 26 want to stay, but it would be easy in 27, 28, 29. Big question there again. Can he recruit / which members of his staff would come? All those things. I don't know, but he's a darn good football coach. Kenny Dillingham. I don't think this one's very realistic, but he has voiced his concerns. I just want to put him on the list here with how his alma mater, yes, he is an Arizona State grad, how he's able to deal with that, because they don't have the same NIL that a lot of other schools in the Big 12 or anybody else out west do. USC in particular. Oregon, nah. They struggle with it. Will he ever get tired of ASU? Possibly. I don't think he's going to be a serious candidate, but you have to call him. And because he made that comment, he makes my top 5. Dillingham's young. He's energetic. He's looking at anything he can to score points. He'd be fun with all, again, just like with Lashley. A lot of fun with the talent there. Could you imagine? It would be really exciting. Number 3, and it's the same principle. And again, it's an alma mater situation, but you have to call Jeff Brom. I think he's a guy that is going to get a call from every school in the country. He is, once again, at his alma mater where he played quarterback. And on top of that, he's a guy that's had success. You just can't get the same players out of the high school ranks at Louisville that you do at LSU over and over and over again. You might get 2 or 3, but the top end kids, no. And the quantity also, again, no. And you get to do it in your backyard if you're the head coach of the Bayou Bengals. Will Brom end up taking another job at some point? Possibly. I still think the most likely for him is the National Football League in 4 or 5 years. But until then, every single job that comes open, because he's such a good quarterback coach, imagine what he would do at LSU. It would be really intriguing. Number 2, this one I put an asterisk by. This one's going to be a little more explanatory. Brent Key from Georgia Tech. If Buster Faulkner comes with it. If you're not familiar, that is the offense coordinator. He's coached, obviously, at Georgia Tech. He was also under Kirby at Georgia. Tremendous offensive coordinator that can use a really good passing quarterback, a running quarterback, somebody semi-motor. He can use whatever he has. He adjusts to his talent. Now, Brent is a very much old school, just want to run the football guy. He needs the right coordinator, in my opinion, for it to work, especially at a school like LSU. But if you give LSU, what's their biggest weakness right now? Offensive line, ironically, a really good O-line coach, a coordinator that's creative, we know they're going to have skill talent. That wouldn't be very difficult. Here's the problem, just like it is on most of these guys. He is at his alma mater. Good luck. I don't see that being a good thing for LSU, but eventually they're going to have to probably clear one of these hurdles. We'll see. And then number 1 for me is one that may or may not surprise some, and it definitely ticked off a friend of mine that works for the Locked On Podcast Network. When I mentioned it to him, that would be Spencer McLaughlin of Locked On Ducks and Locked On College Football, and that would be Dan Lanning. He's been at Alabama. He's been at Georgia. He knows what it looks like. He recruits the South. He's a national recruiter. He's a very good defensive mind. Why would you not go after him? He has a chance to come home to at least a region that he's familiar with in coaching. He's from Missouri originally, but this would be a pretty nice halfway spot. Like Bama's not coming open anytime soon. Georgia's not coming open anytime soon. I would assume one of those is his top 2 picks if he ever left Oregon. I get it. But this is probably the only other chance he would have. For me, the first call I would make in terms of where I would want to be with him, younger coach, great recruiter, all that, would be Dan Lanning. That's just my opinion. Now let's go down to the assistant coaches. Tim Banks. He's at Tennessee, defense coordinator. He's been really good for a long time. I don't know why more people don't talk about him. They had the number one run defense in the country last year. In the SEC, that is hard to do. He should be on the list. Speaking of the Southeastern Conference, Glenn Schumann, the defense coordinator at Georgia. He's a guy that I probably could put higher on this list, but I'm guessing defensive coaches won't be as coveted. So I put those two towards the bottom. Schumann is the right-hand man for none other than Kirby Smart. That kind of speaks for itself. Will Stein, offensive coordinator at Oregon. Really good with the screen game, short passing game, and getting quarterbacks to be consistently accurate and on time. That never goes out of style. He's young. He's been a few places. This is a really good coach. He's got Texas ties. It'd be a great fit for LSU. Shannon Dawson, speaking of fit, he's the Miami OC. He was with those teams in the early 2010s at West Virginia that just lit it up. He went to Houston, lit it up. He's been at Miami, had a lot of success, but he's from Louisiana. Dawson's a good guy. I had a chance to meet him a couple of summers ago. I think he would do very well at LSU. Again, he understands quarterbacks. He understands throwing around. Wouldn't be a problem. And then my number one assistant would be Buster Faulkner, who I talked about in regards to Brent Key. If he came by himself, I wouldn't hate that either. He is a very creative mind, and I think he's somebody that would do very, very well. If he ended up at LSU, they'd score a lot of points. Again, he's coached under Kirby. He's coached under Brent Key. It shouldn't be that rough. So let's see how that goes and kind of figure it out just a little bit in terms of what's next for them over the next 2-3 days. There'll be somebody that comes out and says, my name's in or my name's out. Maybe I'm wrong on Kiffin. Who knows? But there's a lot going on. With that, we got a few comments here in the chat. Let's see. This one's interesting. Raymond, hey, what's going on, man? BK showed he was the problem, not Notre Dame. BK doesn't want to recruit enough. And for those that don't know, like I called this a long time ago, 3-4 years. A lot of people did. I'm not the only one. He didn't want to recruit, at least consistently, and it killed him. Sorry, I'm late. I have a slip from the office. DJ, thanks, man. Brian Kelly. Yep, that's right. Brian Kelly got canned. DJ, I just don't see Campbell being successful there. He may not. He's just a really good football coach. I don't know how it worked for Nick Saban. He's a guy from West Virginia and played football in Ohio as a player at Kent State. Then he coached with the Browns. Then he was the head coach at Michigan State. No ties. He won a national title there. LSU, it's a little easier. Let's keep that in mind. All right. BX Big Shot. I like Brom. I think Brom would do very well at LSU. It's one of the reasons he's on my list, no doubt. Did you mention Fran Brown? I like him too. Fran, I think, would be interesting. I don't know if he's recruited much down in that area. He's a heck of an offensive mind, and he's a DB coach, which is ironic. I think he could do well, and his offensive coordinator would come with him. They would do well together. But I don't know if he would fit down there either. That one you could add on to the pile. I certainly wouldn't hate that. It's something to think about. But really interesting circumstance that LSU finds itself in. And I don't know if it's going to be very easy to get past the point of whether or not they're going to accept anything other than an A-list coach. Like the money matters. For those that don't know, and I assume most do, it's $53 million spread out over like between now and the end of 2031. But you got the assistants. Then you got another coaching hire. We'll get into all that here in just a second. I got one more segment that I want to talk about with that contract. This is what LSU needs to do. That's what we're going to talk about next, just for a couple minutes, because it's pivotal. If LSU makes this mistake, or Florida for that matter, it will screw their program royally. Don't make this mistake. That is next here on Locked On the Portal. Today's show is brought to you by FanDuel. The NBA is back, and there's no better place to get in on the action than FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Even if you missed the start of the game or want to ride the hot hand, FanDuel has live bets on everything from who will score next to fourth quarter comebacks. Plus, you can even combine your live bets into a same-game parlay for a shot at bigger payout. It keeps the game exciting, especially when your team's making a late push. Right now, FanDuel is giving new customers $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet hits. Head to FanDuel.com to sign up and play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. All right, no more of these 10-year contracts. none for Florida, none for LSU, none for Penn State, none of them. If that means you have to take the up-and-coming coach, do it. No more. No more. It's a terrible idea. If there is a 10-year contract, and you could still do it, it's real simple. If we deem, and we get 100% leniency on this, which agents probably won't like, so be it, see you later, then we want to fire the coach, he gets 10% of what's left at any point left in that contract in the negotiation. I am steadfast on this. These schools have to stop going down and just bowing to these agents and to these coaches. Take the up-and-comer. Call it collusion, call it whatever you want. I'm sure these agents talk about it too, but you just have to tell them, no, we're not doing the 10-year contract. We're not doing 7. We're doing 5 or less. If you don't like it, hit the road. This is LSU. This is Florida. This is Penn State. This is Oklahoma State. This is Oregon State. This is Colorado State. I don't care what level it is. No more of this stuff over 5-year contract. If you do, it's on you. Because even the so-called home run hires, Brian Kelly. How did that work out at LSU? He's fired in the middle of year 3 or year 4. How about out at Southern Cal? He was the other guy that was rumored to be going to LSU. It's not working out real well there either, is it? Good coach. Great. No. Is he winning a national title? No. That's why you can't give these contracts. USC is stuck. Their contract was over $100 million. Stupid. You cannot give these contracts out. Any school that does, I'm going to have a complete full show rant on every one of it does, because somebody will still do it. I don't care if it's Kiffin at Florida. You cannot give 10-year contracts. Things change. There can be no more guarantees. Go away from that. Hire somebody who wants to be at your school, who loves the school, like a Brent Key, and work it up piece by piece. The boosters don't like it. Too bad, see you. We're not going to be put on the hook. And LSU right now is on the hook. $53 million. Florida State's about to go through it. Penn State's going through it. You cannot sign these contracts. Stupid. I don't know which one will do it. We could have a bet on it, but there'll be somebody. There'll be somebody dumb enough to do it. DJ, so do you think who will grab a G5 coach? This is a great question. I wish I'd have thought of this one. So you don't think they will grab a G5? No, I don't. LSU could. And from just reading the LSU boards, it's an arrogance thing, like Summerall is at Tulane. He's a very good coach. He's got ties to Alabama, Louisiana, etc. He would probably do very well there, but you don't know, and it's an arrogance thing. Be careful about how much you puff out your chest. Plus, he's a lot more likely to do what I just said and not need the 10-year deal. Hire him for 5, 6, be done. And give him like $7 million, and he would take a lesser buyout and still be a darn good football coach. LSU doesn't need what some other people do. They don't need the reincarnation of Don Coryell, John Madden, or anybody else that's been an elite coach that's in some kind of Hall of Fame in college, pro, or both. They don't. They're going to have more talent than most people. Get somebody that wants to be there, that knows the area, can recruit, and if you bring in a national guy, so be it. He can keep Frank Wilson, etc. It's not that hard. So I wouldn't have a problem with it, but I got a feeling a lot of LSU people would. DJ, I agree, Brian. Stop the 10-year contract. Absolutely. It's so dumb. It's so dumb. DJ, remember when 5-year was the normal? Yeah, it used to be 20, 25 years ago. Once you might sign a 7. Once it got to 5 and it was getting ready to go down to 4, they would re-up them for another year. And just every year was just 5. That's what they need to go back to. Again, you're going to have to eat it. And it's going to have to be a few schools. They're going to have to tell all these coaches, screw you, man. We're going to do one thing. 5, 6-year deal. That's it. And the buyout has to be on our terms. You don't like it? We're not taking it. End of negotiation. Even if it's the guy you really want, don't do it. Can't be on the hook. Let's see here. Summerall will get a P4 job next year. I think he quite possibly could. Just as throwing this out there, wouldn't be surprised me if it was Virginia Tech. Wouldn't surprise me if NC State comes open, and I'm hearing that it might. Dave Doran at NC State, that would be a possibility. And there could be others. I mean, if the Auburn job comes open, he was just at Troy before he was at Tulane. That's possible. You never know. Brian, there is a chance Norvell stays if he strings things 3 straight wins, especially Clemson. Look, Florida State's not beating hardly anybody. They might win 1 or 2 more games. That team is not dialed in, brother. If they don't fire Norvell at the end of this season, it is going to be a really difficult time on Locked On Seminoles, the other show that I do. Very difficult. With that, I appreciate everybody stopping in. I will have more updates, maybe even another live show later tonight at 9 or 10 o'clock, just talking about recruits, getting some reactions. It's possible. But worst case scenario, again, every day, it's going to be noon Eastern. We're going to do live shows. Please, everybody, stop in. Please like and subscribe. This has been the Portal Podcast. We appreciate you stopping in. We will see you again very soon.